This has been awaited for years. Now Ukraine will produce Patriot missiles itself.
A little bird told me that we will grant them the right to produce Patriot missiles.
An unexpected agreement with Donald Trump, but the Institute for the Study of War warns Russia may take advantage of this. What details are being kept quiet, and most importantly, will there be enough time to hold out and launch production? Watch in this video. But before we start, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let's start with why this conversation about the license came up in the first place. Patriot is the only system in Ukraine capable of effectively shooting down missiles flying on ballistic and quasi-ballistic trajectories. Russian Iskander-M, Kinjal, and Zircon.
The Patriot is the most effective defense system against incoming tactical ballistic missiles. Without a doubt, it truly stands as the premier choice. And we have demonstrated this capability repeatedly in real-world combat. In war, the best.
The Air Force handles cruise missiles and drones much better, but only the Patriot can stop ballistic missiles. And it is precisely the interceptors for it that are in catastrophic shortage. The spokesperson for the Air Force, Yuri Inat, directly admitted the reason that not a single missile was shot down on the night of July 6th was the lack of interceptor missiles for these systems.
The rate is low? Well, it's low. Even I say that I understand that to shoot down ballistic missiles, you need to have enough systems. There needs to be a constant supply of missiles, which we have talked about from broadcast to broadcast, specifically emphasizing this point. So the Russians are taking advantage of a serious shortage in Ukraine and a worldwide lack of interceptor missiles like the PAC-2 and PAC-3, which is why they are focusing their strikes on critical infrastructure.
At the end of May, President Zelensky sent an urgent letter to Trump and Congress warning about the critical shortage of air defense systems. And on July 8th, at the NATO summit in Ankara, sitting next to Zelensky, Trump announced that the United States would grant Ukraine the right to produce missiles for the Patriot system. According to him, the Ukrainian side will be able to handle the technical challenges fairly quickly, and negotiations with the manufacturing company are still ahead.
The right to produce Patriot. We are showing you how to do it. It is a very technically complex thing, but I think you will manage, and you will manage quickly.
And now to the details that change the entire impression of this statement. Let's start with the fact that the license itself is only a permit to begin production. And it is still unknown what type of missiles Ukraine will be allowed to produce. Will it be the more modern PAC-3 interceptors, which are more effective at destroying ballistic missiles, or the simpler PAC-2? This will determine how reliable the future defense will be whenever it actually becomes operational. This opinion was expressed in a comment to Union by military expert and founder of the charitable organization Reactive Mail, Pavlo Narozhny.
More likely, this is unrealistic because the production is highly technological. First of all, we don't know exactly which missiles. There are two generations of missiles, PAS-2 and PAS-3. They differ in a fundamental way. The PAS-2 does not have a radar on board, so the target needs to be illuminated by a radar. That is, the radar is positioned on the ground and it illuminates the target. Electromagnetic waves are reflected from the target, and these waves are detected by the missile, which then flies directly toward the waves reflected from that specific target, that particular one.
And while this process is only just beginning, the situation with the available missiles remains critical even now. Notably, even Zelensky himself admits the PAC-3 deliveries that Ukraine is receiving today are catastrophically insufficient. Russia is launching twice as many ballistic targets as Ukraine is able to shoot down with its current means.
Now one package will arrive, I won't say when, one package of PAC-3. We've reached an agreement, but it's not enough. The only correct option is an alternative to the PAC-3. Now, under our chairmanship, I think that in the coming weeks, maybe even within a week, yes, we will try to gather the countries that have now joined the anti-ballistic coalition. These are countries that have manufacturing facilities producing components for our future system called Freya. This is our European anti-ballistic system. We call it European. It will be under Ukraine's leadership, and it will include, well, up to 7 countries. We'll see, up to 7 countries. Of course, we will build the system, build enough for Ukraine, and we will share the technologies with all countries.
As for the manufacturers themselves, Lockheed Martin, which produces the PAC-3 interceptors, and Artex, the main contractor for the Patriot system, at the time of the statement, they had not even been informed about the upcoming licensing. Trump himself admitted this. So a political statement was made, but the legal process has not started.
But we also talked about the fact that there will be a license in Ukraine to produce the Patriot. That's great. So Mr. President cannot complain that we somehow bypassed him. It's not finished yet, but it will happen. To be continued. This needs to be done, and we will be able to do it.
But even if the type of missiles is determined soon, the question that concerns analysts the most remains. How much time will it actually take for production to start? Trump himself names a specific time frame.
The company that produces these products already has 4 factories, all of them. In 2 or 3 months, we will be able to place the order. The same goes for Tomahawks. We can deliver very quickly, but I think they will start production very soon. We will explain the technology.
Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War call these timelines optimistic, since production depends not only on permission, but also on establishing an entire supply chain for components, obtaining technologies, and deploying an industrial base. Military expert Pavlo Narozhny estimates a realistic time frame to be at least a year to a year and a half.
A faster timeline is unlikely because the production is highly technological.
Bloomberg analysts come to a similar conclusion. For comparison, Japan, which is currently the world's only successful full-cycle producer of Patriot missiles, spent 5 years at the Mitsubishi plant from obtaining the license to the first launch of its own missile. And here the Institute for the Study of War formulates that very dangerous nuance. Until Ukraine begins producing its own interceptors, a time window will open up, and according to analysts, Russia may take advantage of this very period to intensify missile strikes and inflict maximum damage while Ukraine is still unable to defend itself more reliably. In other words, the louder the news about the future strengthening of air defense, the more incentive the Kremlin has to strike now, while there is still an opportunity. This concern is further reinforced by another figure. According to Vadim Skibitsky, Deputy Chief of the Main Intelligence Directorate, Russia is capable of producing between 60 and 65 Iskander ballistic missiles per month. This is an industrial pace that the Kremlin has been building up for years, and it is precisely this that determines how painful the strikes on Ukrainian cities could be in the coming months, while Ukrainian production of Patriot systems has not yet started. It is also important to understand the broader context. In addition to the license itself, Ukraine already has an agreement with Germany to produce 600 missiles under the current German license. This process is ongoing in parallel and independently of the decision to launch domestic production. Also, at the NATO summit, the United States, Germany, the Netherlands, Poland, and Sweden agreed to establish a service center for PAC-3 missiles in Europe. In other words, the process of strengthening European and Ukrainian air defense is moving forward along several tracks simultaneously, but none of them yields immediate results. What does this actually mean? First and foremost, this is a long-term decision which, according to the most optimistic forecasts, will have a noticeable effect in at least a year, and according to more realistic estimates, in a year and a half to 2 years. But according to the Institute for the Study of War, the coming months could turn out to be some of the most dangerous. Right now, Russia has both the capacity for massive strikes and the motivation to hit as hard as possible, while Ukraine still does not have enough interceptors to reliably defend itself. That's why there can be a significant delay between a loud political statement and the actual strengthening of air defense, and Russia will certainly not waste this time. Will Ukraine manage to bolster its defenses faster than Russia can use this window for new strikes? And can we really trust promises about a 2 or 3 month time frame when even in the US this is called unrealistic? Write in the comments what you think about what you've heard. If you found the video useful, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. See you next time!